Hey guys, Jen here with Magical Vacations by Jen, coming to you with a review of the Barcelo Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic from our trip we just got back from. You all said you wanted to see pictures and have a review, so I really wish I was high tech and could do the whole, cool image in the background thing, but I'm kind of not. So, sorry. You got the pictures online, and here's the review. Oh, and if you're wondering, this is my husband's office, not mine. I do not play that guitar in the background. Wish I did. Anyway, so where to start? Well, first of all, if you've never been to the Dominican Republic, it's like every other Caribbean island in that it's very poor. Excuse me, I have a souvenir cold from the trip and nasty cold sore. Anyway, so it's an open air airport, which is really kind of cool, unless you have a hurricane, I imagine. I really don't know how it withstands that, but rain and all that stays out. It's pretty neat, and it really is a great introduction to the island. Like, hey, you're really not at in the U.S. anymore. This is tropical. Getting to your resort, they have real buses. If you've ever been to like Jamaica or some other islands where the buses are kind of not that much buses, they really do have real transportation there, which is good. And the roads are paved. As you're flying in, you'll see a whole lot of unpaved roads and really a lot of mountains and just empty terrain, very undeveloped. We were very surprised by that. But they really do have real roads and highways, and the driving is just as scary there as it is in pretty much every other Caribbean island I've been to. And but getting to the resort takes about 25 minutes roughly if you go to the Barcelo Punta Cana. It's one of various Barcelos in Punta Cana. There are lots of all-inclusive resorts there. It's a very popular destination. They get about 2 million tourists a year, so that's really their major source of income. And excuse me again, I'm really sorry about the coughing, but I really wanted to get this done while it was all fresh in my mind. So anyway, the Barcelo. The reason we were there, I'm going to do a disclosure here. Obviously, I'm a travel agent, but I didn't use any travel agent rates to go there. I used our Caribbean Vacation Club with Occidental. Occidental and Barcelo merged this year. So this was my first time to a Barcelo resort, and I'm not really sure where this one rates or ranks in their kind of hierarchy. They have a palace there, or maybe it's called deluxe. We went with the cheaper one because we wanted a cheap vacation, and so we got to kind of bear that in mind when I do this review. And I also really want to emphasize, I know a lot of people get really nitpicky with Caribbean resorts, and on one hand, yeah, you're spending potentially a lot of money to be there, and I understand all of that, but you got to realize these are third world or developing countries in most cases, and the infrastructure there is not what it is here, and that was really evident in Punta Cana. The plumbing is questionable at best. I'm not gonna lie. We had a toilet overflow in one of the restaurant bathrooms. We had some bathrooms that out of 3 stalls, 1 was operational, and that was kind of iffy. And there were a couple of places that flushed really well. Our personal room, we got upgraded to a suite, which was really nice. We get that a lot with our vacation club, and we had a 2-room suite, so we had a bedroom and a living area with a massive couch that had to be doubling as a bed because nobody's got legs that long, and 2 bathrooms, which came in really handy because one night we had rain in our bathroom. And I don't mean rain from the outside. This was not a thatch roof kind of room. I mean from the upstairs. I was kind of half asleep, said to my husband, "Are you showering?" He said, "No, I thought you were." No. So yeah, that was interesting. But again, plumbing in the Dominican, not what it is here. Hygiene, also not the same. If you know anything about the Caribbean, you've probably heard about Montezuma's Revenge. Mexico and Dominican Republic have the worst reputations for foodborne illnesses, stomach issues. I don't really think it's food poisoning, to be honest, because I've had food poisoning, and food poisoning involves a lot of vomiting, as well as other things. And none of us had that. None of us did. But of the 11 people that were traveling with me, 11 in total, 5 of us did have stomach issues. So I gotta say, the island deserves its reputation if we are any indication, and I think we are, because we heard lots of other people on the buses, waiting at the resort, at the airport. Even when we got back, my husband had a trip to the hospital for unrelated reasons, kidney stone, and a doctor had said that somebody had just come with excruciating stomach pain directly back from Punta Cana. Not trying to scare you away from the island, but I will say that stuff is true. And in part, it's debatable what it is. Some people blame it on the water, the food, the different flora and fauna, as they say. Um, could be a lot of things. I kind of started talking about, pardon the phrase, but bird crap sauce because the open air buffet, which is lovely, it's really a beautiful resort. We, at different points toward the end of our stay, realized there were birds flying in, landing on at least the watermelon I definitely saw, and probably some other food, and kind of pecking. You can imagine that that's not a good idea and could present some stomach issues. And I'm not going to lie, this is not the only island this probably happens on, but, it is more prevalent there for some reason. The whole flora and fauna thing, when you go to the Caribbean in general, I think it's a good idea, especially if you go to Mexico or Punta Cana. One of my tips would be to take acidophilus for a week or two leading up to your trip. Take it with you at the trip. It's in yogurt, but not to the same, I don't know if the word is concentration or power or what, but they sell it in pill form. You can get it pretty much anywhere. Not super expensive, not hard to take. They're usually tiny pills. They even make them chewable in probiotic form for kids. My daughter took it the whole time she was there. She had no stomach issues. I don't know if that's coincidence or what. I took it leading up, tend to forget when I get there. Hubby, very lax on the whole thing. He had it the worst. Hard to say. Other tips in the Caribbean, people always say, don't eat the lettuce. We pretty much didn't. Don't drink the water. Well, that's kind of a given if you're talking about a faucet. Never drink the water, really out of your home area because, again, the different flora and fauna can really wreak havoc with your system. To prevent that, because I tend to take it to the extreme and not brush my teeth with the water, so I put a washcloth over the faucet. This is my advice to everyone. If you want to remember to not drink the water, just put a washcloth over the faucet and it'll remind you, like, hey, don't do that. Works really well. In the shower, don't sing in the shower, get it all in your mouth. That's not a good idea. So, but as far as the resort goes, they got to filter that water. I mean, you're not drinking anything unfiltered because you'd be really sick. Same with the ice. People say don't use the ice. Well, that's got to be filtered too. In a lot of destinations, Caribbean destinations, they say look for the holes in the ice, and I've seen that in Mexico and Aruba. Dominican did not see any holes in any ice, but I still don't think that it was unfiltered. If you leave the resort, your mileage may vary. Hard to say. I think it's a great idea to try off-site cuisine, local to the island. But at the same time, you do have to use some caution. We did not, for what it's worth. We only ate at the resort in this case. It was an all-inclusive resort, so all drinks, all food, all entertainment pretty much was included. As far as the drinks go, obviously they have sodas, soft drinks, lemonade, tea, coffee, all the usual stuff, and of course, alcohol. And my family, my husband and I, not big drinkers, but my husband did enjoy some cervezas. That's beer. My big Spanish speaking there. Their local beer is, I think it's called Presidente, kind of like Red Stripe in Jamaica, Dos Equis or Dos Equis, whatever, in Mexico. I hear it's decent. I'm not a beer drinker. Absolutely hate it. So I can't vouch for it. The rum is one of the things they're famous for, and it is very good. And again, I'm not a big drinker, not a big rum drinker, but that stuff, I'm just noticing this here's a rock, sorry. That stuff is really good. And I wish I could give you some technical reasons why, but I don't know. Nicolette's husband is from the Dominican Republic, which I think is really pretty cool, and he gave me the tip leading up that the rum is good, and cigars as well. We didn't bring any of those home, but we did bring the rum. And he said something about wood chips in the rum. I have no idea. Maybe that's like the worm in the tequila. I don't know. But whatever they're doing, it's good stuff. But by and large, the drinks at the resort were watered down, kind of odd in a lot of cases. The first time we ordered a pina colada, it was served over ice. Same thing with the strawberry daiquiri. Now, not every bar was the same. They weren't consistent. Some of them had the regular icy, slushy kind of a pina colada and daiquiri that I think we're all used to. But, at the pool, maybe not. Is hit or miss, and how the drink was made seemed to be a little iffy. One of my favorite drinks of the week was the golden pineapple, really good. A lot of pineapple juice, a little bit of rum, maybe, depending on your bartender, and amaretto. Really good drink. Could not find a recipe for it at home, so if you want to try it, Just kind of throw it all together, layer it. It's good stuff. Mojitos were very good, but again, the drinks were not as good as I've had in other Caribbean resorts for a variety of reasons. The food in general, the food at the buffet was, I'm going to call it subpar for the most part. We are very accustomed to Occidental resorts, Occidental Aruba, Occidental Gran Xcaret in Mexico. All had great food, even on the buffet. Really good crispy bacon in the mornings, fluffy eggs, pancakes like you get at home, good French toast, all that kind of stuff. Here, the eggs I understand were good. I'm not an egg eater, but they had a fresh omelet station, which everybody seemed to enjoy. But the pancakes, some of them were brown, and we didn't know why. I don't think they were chocolate. I'm not saying there was anything wrong with them, but different than what you're used to at home. The French toast, yeah, not that French. Excuse me again. Anyway, dinner time, the food was generally reasonably temperatured. That's one of the things you definitely want to look out for. You don't want to be eating food that tastes like the wrong temperature. If it's supposed to be cold and it's hot, it's supposed to be hot and it's cold. That's a good thing to stay away from if you want to avoid the stomach issues. Generally, things were pretty good. They were under heat lamps and so forth. A lot of veggies. The veggies were actually pretty good. They do a lot with eggplant and plantains there. Plantains are really big in the islands. I'm a big fan of trying those dishes. They did some cool stuff with bananas, like banana tempura. So there were some good dishes on the buffet, but by and large, not that great, even though it was fairly large. And for the kids, this is kind of important because we were traveling with a bunch of kids, and not good selection. They had a small little bar for kids, labeled for kids. It had 3 dishes on it, but none of them were labeled. And if your kid's anything like my kid, she's not eating anything. She doesn't know what it is, and I couldn't tell her because it didn't look like anything I'd eaten before. So there were a lot of arguments over what are you going to eat. They do have more restaurants at this resort than I think most do. I think there were 5 or 6 specialty restaurants. We ate at them all, and there was Dominican, Mexican, Italian, Japanese, and did I say Mexican? I think there were 5. Anyway, those were actually very good. The Dominican restaurant, very good. There was a lot of fish. I'm not even a fish eater, but the fish there was actually very good. I had red snapper. I had something local there called Dorado. And my favorite dish of the week was tequila glazed or sauced shrimp at the Mexican restaurant. Very good. In fact, I'd say that their specialty restaurants were maybe a cut above some of the other places I've been. So kind of odd that disparity between the buffet and the other restaurants. But the drinks, it's the same no matter where you went. And I heard the Coke didn't taste like Coke. I don't know. I don't really drink Coke. Anyway, and let's see what else. The beaches. Beaches are awesome. I don't care where you go in Punta Cana, you're going to get a beautiful beach. They're gorgeous. The sand is super soft. It's just heavenly. The water is gorgeous. If you've looked at my pictures, there's no filters. There's no touch-ups. That's really the color. Gorgeous green blue. Very clear for the most part. The only fogginess to it is from the sand kicking up because the waves were relatively rough where we were, which is kind of nice for like body surfing or boogie boarding, which they did have at the resort. You could use boogie boards. You could use sunfish. You just had to check them out, and you had to check them out pretty early if you wanted a slot. But they were free to use because they're non-motorized water sports. And to be honest, we didn't see any motorized water sports. A lot of resorts will have outside vendors at least come in, whether they want them to or not even, and offer it up to the guests. We didn't see a single one. You could leave the resort and do that kind of stuff. They had speedboats, 2-person speedboats and things, but nothing on resort. The resort is flanked by a couple of other all-inclusive resorts, but if you venture too far in any one direction, like any other Caribbean island, you're going to encounter some armed guards, no joke. Barbed wire around the resorts, but again, that's the Caribbean. Anybody who tells you that the Caribbean is super safe or their island is super safe is really not telling you the truth. Not that that's, to be scary. I go to the Caribbean. I love the Caribbean. But you got to use caution. You got to be smart and realize that when you're in a resort, you're in a resort. You're in a very protected area. Tourism is very big for them. So they're definitely there to protect you, but be wise if you do leave the resort. You are extremely wealthy to them. So you need to bear that in mind. To that end, we wound up doing a dune buggy excursion that took us out into the countryside, took us to a cenote, which is a Spanish word for basically an underground pool. So that was a lot of fun. It was my first cenote. Even though I've been to Mexico, I haven't been to one. So We really enjoyed it. My husband was sick at the time with the stomach issues. This was right before we left. And my daughter and I went. The water is generally very cold in those, but it felt refreshing because, of course, it's super hot down there in June. And the dune buggy ride was a lot of fun. It was very dusty. They give you these bandanas, or actually we had to buy them to put over your face. You've probably seen the picture. You don't get to go really fast. I was really kind of waiting for some full throttle speed. I love that kind of stuff. But didn't happen. We were on kind of paved roads. I think we probably only went in a mile radius from where we started. I'm not sure, but it took a while because we weren't going very fast. I think everybody had a good time, and we got to see like a plantation or a farm that had cocoa. They dried out the leaves for tobacco. Got to taste their hot chocolate and things like that before we went into the cave with the cenote. We also went to a different beach. I'm probably going to butcher this, but I'm going to guess it's Macau Beach. Excuse me again. And that was gorgeous and a little more sheltered maybe than the beach that we were on. We had a reef outside of ours, so it did help in terms of the undercurrent, but it wasn't a particularly calm area. But the Macau, or however they pronounce it, beach was significantly more calm. Might have been good for snorkeling, I'm not sure. We really didn't see any fish in a shallow area at all, which for me is just as well. I'm not a big fish person, but if you're a snorkeler, you probably have to go out a little bit further. I know they have scuba diving and things on the island too. We only did the one excursion in this case. We were trying to save some money, and we're a little bit concerned about venturing off property, and quite frankly wanted to unplug and relax for the week. So, but I would recommend that tour. They call them dune buggies down there. You'll see that in my picture. We kind of thought that was funny, but they're dune buggies, and they come in a couple of varieties. There's a 2-seater, runs about $50 a person. There's a 4-seater, or actually, I'm sorry, the 2-seater was something like $60, $65 a person. The 4-seater was $50 a person, and then they have the kind of Cadillac of dune buggies for $90 a person, which is a Polaris, basically an ATV with a roof on it. We got inadvertently upgraded to that because my husband didn't show up. It was kind of cool. Still get muddy, but definitely fun. So anyway, on this dune buggy venture, you will encounter lots of local children out on the road just kind of waving or trying to sell you things. I would definitely encourage not buying things. For one, you're moving, and that's not easy to do, and you really don't want to hold up the tour. The tour operators will not be happy with you. But also, it's you don't know what you're getting in terms of the fruit and things that they're trying to sell, so I wouldn't necessarily do that. But what people that we were with did do was take some school supplies and hand them out to the kids as we were going by, or maybe threw them out's the better word. And I know that sounds a little weird, but believe me, I'm sure that they appreciated them. They are very, very poor. And we also took school supplies and left them behind. Didn't take them on the excursion, but we did do that. And I encourage anybody who does go to places like that and does get out of the resort, do that, or even contact the resort and see what options you have, because some places, like in the Dominican Republic, they will have charities that come by to the resorts and pick up donations, and even small things. It just goes a long way. Which also brings up the issue of tipping, actually, because all-inclusive resorts, in theory, kind of like cable was years ago, no commercials, and now there are some. Well, tipping has kind of gone that way with all-inclusives too, I feel like. There are still some out there that flat out forbid it, but in most cases they don't weigh in on it. They don't forbid it. They just, it's not required. But the reality is, I think that most Americans that do travel to all-inclusives these days do take some dollars with them. We're not talking like 20% tips like you do in the US or 18 or whatever, but a buck here, a buck there is huge in their currency. The exchange rate down there right now, at least, is 45 cents to the dollar. So, you can imagine, and these people aren't exactly making a mint working in these resorts. I mean, they have good jobs, but, they're paid very modestly, so, the dollar here and there is pretty big. We even had someone on our excursion who was with us throwing out some dollars to people, and it was a little weird, but I am pretty certain they were very appreciative of it. So let's see what else. The resort itself is gorgeous, as I think every resort I've ever been to in the Caribbean is. They have beautifully manicured grounds, 2 large pools, one very large. That is the party pool, as I would call it, or the activities pool, the main pool. It's where the swim-up pool bar is. Those are always very popular. Also had a zero entry area, which is really nice. That pool was very, very warm. I don't know why it was so much warmer, but it was like literally a bathtub. kind of to the point that I didn't really want to be in it. It felt kind of like a tepid pool of ick. But maybe that was just me. And maybe it was just that week. Who knows? But anyway, it was a very warm pool. It's also where they play volleyball. Again, have the daily activities. They have contest games, things like that. They also had beach volleyball, organized and unorganized. You could check out balls to play. And the other pool was the one we were closer to and we liked more, called the quiet pool, I guess. And it had the loungers in the pool, which I just think those are the coolest thing. You know, they're like the molded loungers. They're hard. They're not soft to sit on, but you're partially submersed in the water, so you're not sweating. It's a beautiful thing. Not good for burning. Gotta be really careful with that, but really nice. And with a handy little drink stand right next to you. Can't go wrong there. They didn't have many of those chairs, but surprisingly, even though the place was pretty full, we didn't really have a problem getting one if we wanted one. As with all resorts, towels go out really early to hold seats, and we had a guy in our group who was nice enough to get out there pretty early and save 11 or at least 8 seats for us each morning, which we really, really appreciated because, as you can see, I'm not really rocking a dark tan here. I kind of am white or pink and not much in between. So, a lot of sunscreen. SPF 50 for my family. And anyway, so yeah, they did have shade, not so much at the main pool, but definitely at the quiet pool. They also had a little kind of splash area or mini water park for the kids. Kids loved it. Even my daughter, who's 9, thought it was a lot of fun, which I was a little surprised. It looked a little juvenile, but they enjoyed it. What they have that's kind of unique at this resort is a rock climbing wall and a trapeze. And that's pretty cool. The trapeze is a good, I don't know, 30 feet up in the air, I guess, maybe? I don't know, I'm a really bad judge of distance, but trust me, it's pretty high. You have to climb a ladder to get up there, and they do have 2 guys who are really, really good gymnasts up there, or at least one anyway, depending on what you're doing. It's kind of a clinic kind of a thing. They'll actually teach you stuff. We saw one guy who we kind of became friends with over the week, who not only did he swing on the trapeze, but he learned to hang upside down and grab the hands of the other actual trapeze artist and swing, and that was pretty amazing. I mean, it's like learning to be a circus act, you know. So, but pretty much everybody in our group tried it, except me. Sorry, a little bit of a chicken, afraid of heights. My husband, for stomach issue reasons, and my daughter actually did do it, and she did, and it was totally safe at 9. I didn't know how that was going to go, but they put you in a nice safety harness, so you're not going anywhere. There's a guy on the ground holding the rope that's attached to the safety harness, or actually to the trapeze, so that if you do fall, it's a gentle fall, not a flat-out plummet to the net below, because that is a fair distance down. So he kind of lets you down gently when you're ready to fall, and then you flip off, and totally safe. They also had a trampoline right beside it, so there were certain hours during the day that you could do those things if you wanted to participate. The beach was pretty expansive. There was never a shortage of chairs. Shaded chairs, of course, another story, but again, we fared pretty well. They didn't have any palapas, those, thatch little umbrella-esque things on the beach like a lot of resorts do, but they had a lot of palm tree shade, and the palm trees provided a lot more shade than I thought they would. The water temperature was great, both in the quiet pool, which I didn't mention, and in the ocean itself. Is perfect. Refreshing, not too cold, not too warm. Let's see, what else have I not covered? I've covered food, I've covered drinks. Oh, they had a disco. That was so much fun. I highly recommend it if you want to have some fun one night. I opened at 11 o'clock. They also had a casino, which was not air conditioned, and it was in a basement, so that's pretty unusual. I gotta tell you, every resort I've been to, they crank up the air on those casinos because they want you to be really comfortable and have a lot of fun in there. This one did not. So although I didn't go in, my husband checked it out for roughly 5 minutes because it was pretty hot. Let's see what else. They had a pizza place and a buffet by the pool for lunch and breakfast, which was a little unique. I think a lot of Caribbean resorts really only do the main buffet for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and maybe sometimes a pool snack bar for lunch. But this one did breakfast and lunch, but not dinner. It became the seafood restaurant at dinner. The pizza joint was above it and operated till 5 o'clock, from I think probably around 11 till 5. Good pizza. made right there in front of you. So if you're concerned about the food, that was at least for sure nice and fresh, or at least as fresh as the ingredients were, and had a good selection to choose from. So that was a pretty consistent lunch for us. You could take things into the pool. I know that's always a popular question. I do not remember seeing life jackets. They may have been available. Most resorts do provide them, but I honestly don't remember seeing any for children. And but they did have pool floats. You could buy some, but I recommend if you're going to use any, take them. The prices in the gift shop in some cases were outrageous. I could buy a baseball cap for $15, which wasn't outrageous at all, but a ball about okay, can't really tell in this video, but a ball that's maybe 8-10 inches in diameter, just inflated with air, nothing really fancy, cost about $2 at the grocery store, was, no joke, $24 US in the gift shop. So whatever water toys you want to take, pack them. We took dive sticks. That was no problem. They didn't have any issues with anything anyone brought into the pool. I imagine if you get really crazy and try to bring 15 different things in, they'll say something. But they also had no lifeguards, by the way, except in the children's area. That one little water park area did have a lifeguard, but the other two pools had none that we saw and none on the beach. So be aware of that. Definitely watch your kids carefully, especially in the surf. The depth of the pools was great, in my opinion. I'm short. I'm 4'11" on a good day, and I could touch all the way around. Sometimes it was kind of up to here. Mostly it was kind of probably up to here. So even the kids, my 9-year-old and her friends, could touch, so we didn't have to worry too much about them in the pool. There's like a sort of a deck. It's maybe not a ledge, I guess is the better word, but a very deep ledge around the entire quiet pool, which was nice. So if you wanted to be sitting in the water, but not like sitting in the water, you could be comfortable there and watch your kids or whatever and be cool. Let's see. What have I not covered? I've done excursions. I've done the airport. The airport was no problem getting in and out, customs and all of that good stuff. Oh, friendliness of the natives. I hear a lot of differing opinions on this, and I know a lot of people say they're just the nicest people and so on and so forth, and I think that's great, and I am not in the business of bashing any country or its inhabitants, but I'm just going to give you my honest opinion of what I encountered while I was there, and I think you all know by now I'm a pretty laid-back, friendly person. It was 50-50. We didn't encounter anybody that was hostile by any means, but friendliness, some were very friendly and very helpful, but a good 50% of them were completely indifferent. We would say thank you, nothing in return. We would say gracias, nothing in return. In some cases it could have been language barrier, but I think in most cases it was just plain indifference. I don't know the reason for it, and off-resort, what we encountered was probably a little bit friendlier, but also remember that they are in the tourism industry. I really can't speak for the locals. The ones on the street that we passed, obviously very friendly, but your mileage may vary. We found that Mexico was a much friendlier place, at least in the resort. Aruba, probably similar, probably in between. Those are my two recent comparisons. What else to cover? Gosh, I've been talking forever here. So this is why I did this in video and not in text. So anybody who doesn't want to see it isn't bored with like a book. But if you really want to know, yeah, this is my review of both the resort and the island itself. And if you have any additional questions, reach out to me. I am happy to sell any destination that I've been to when it comes to this particular resort, if you do want to try it out, because it is a pretty good deal. Yes, I can book it for you through normal channels, but we do rent out our weeks from our Caribbean Vacation Club that we don't use, so that's an option. We've saved people a good chunk of money that way, and when we take friends on vacation with us, we offer it to them. So anyway, I think that's about it, unless there's something I've missed that you really want to know. I'm trying to think in my head as I'm talking here, like what could I have not said? Oh, beds. Beds are important, right? You're going to sleep there all week. I found the beds to be pretty nice. I like a good soft bed. My husband likes a hard bed or a firm bed. Neither one of us were unhappy. The bed was kind of right there in the middle, where it wasn't like you were sleeping on a rock, but it wasn't like, hollow in the middle. So at least that was the experience in our rooms. Again, we had a suite and we were club level, so we did have concierge service and some nice perks, but the room itself I think was pretty similar to everybody else's. The other two families that we brought with us, one of them had a very standard hotel room, which was, I mean, honestly, it wasn't, wow, it wasn't bad. It just was. And the other one had a really cool high cathedral wooden roof that gave it a lot of island charm, I felt like. So that was pretty cool. They were both club level too, they just weren't suites. Bathrooms were really nice aesthetically from a very superficial perspective. When you first walk in, it had a lot of appeal. It definitely felt very up to date, modern, very pretty, very kind of slate, marbly kind of look. Upon closer inspection, yeah, you're going to see some cracks. You're going to even see some mold. You're going to see, you know, some things that maybe wouldn't be as passable in the U.S., but again, in the tropics, you got to take everything with a little bit of grain of salt and remember what you're working with as far as infrastructure and things like that. And I would say, as far as a star rating, I would give the resort, aesthetically, it's got the potential to easily be a 4-star, I think. But maintenance-wise and friendliness-wise and food-wise, it's probably sitting at maybe a 3, roughly. And again, if you have any questions, reach out to me. But otherwise, there you have it. Check out the pictures. I'll try to post some more if you want to see them. And see you real soon.